Welcome, Media Man Online. I'm Dan. This is Isaiah.
What up?
And we're just having a conversation about Pedro Pascal being in too many movies.
3 trailers in a row.
Show. I went to see this the other day. We'll get to that shortly. And 3 consecutive trailers had Pedro Pascal. Like, come on. Is there people out there? Is there an actor or actress that you really love? Like Anya Taylor-Joy, I love her. If she was in 5 movies in 2025 that were all like big movies coming to the theaters, like, hey, maybe dial it back a little bit.
Yeah, like
I really like her stuff. So before we got into talking about how Marvel sucks, we're talking about Resident Evil Requiem, aka RE9. We just watched a trailer. It's basically a cinematic intro trailer with a character from Resident Evil Outbreak called Alyssa Ashcroft.
I think it's her the daughter of the character from Outbreak, because apparently this is Leon and that character's daughter.
What was the name of the girl you have to? Was it Ashley?
Ashley from 4.
That you have to protect. It's funny because when I heard the name Ashcroft, like, you know, is that the one? My favorite Resident Evil is Resident Evil Code Veronica. And it immediately made, but it's Ashford in that one. We need a remake of that one. They need to get.
Oh yeah, I 5. Especially since we've mostly caught up. I think the only games they haven't remade so far now are 5 and 6 of the old
7
games. Well, I mean, 7's
and
part
8.
of the new wave though, but
yeah.
I would hope they don't remake those. They're the same
we already
style.
got what's that?
Last of Us. Well, that's Naughty Dog though.
Last of Us.
Ugh.
We need a remake of Claire Obscura Expedition 33.
I mean, we're gonna get to remakes as well in a little bit.
This looks pretty good though. I'm pretty interested in this. I'm glad that they cut out the. I did enjoy 7 and 8, 7 more than 8, but they were going in a direction where I thought they were gonna have the daughter be the main character. Like, not really into that. Like at the end of 8.
Yeah, like the DLC for 8 was the daughter as the main character.
Yeah, and I thought 9 was going to be like the completion of a trilogy in that same sense, but this looks like we're going to be going back to classic Resident Evil. But there's not much really to say. There's not any gameplay in this one, so
they did troll us because I was telling Dan,
27th.
I was telling Dan beforehand, they announced it like in the middle of the show, Capcom, they're like, we're not going to show anything Resident Evil here. That's going to be coming at a later time. And then, like, I think, like, the next trailer after that was then this trailer.
Yeah.
So they were trolling people. But I'm excited. I'm one of those people where I didn't grow up with Resident Evil, but I've fallen super in love with the series more recently.
Yeah, that's one of those ones that when I was a kid, I wasn't old enough to play it, but my older brother didn't care, and he would let me watch it, and it still haunts me to this day.
But yeah, no, we'll definitely be talking more about this as we see more, and probably when it comes out.
We got a little ways away, but
yeah,
bye quick.
But you know what? Thankfully, within a year, though. Usually, sometimes with these games, it's like, you know,
28.
It'd be like 2028.
Yeah.
All right, remakes. We talked about this a little bit before. Persona 4 Revival was officially announced, which means that all those rumors, because I think like 2 other voice actors from the game came out and said that, hey, we did not get invited back to it. And yeah, so I think this is cool for people who haven't played it before. It's still still probably top 3 JRPGs of all time for me, possibly number 1. I think the story is really great, the maturity of it all, and the way it handles things in a good way, and not, you know, they're not too weird about it. The discussions that can come up, and especially the characters, are fantastic. That's cool and all, but you can play Persona 4 on Steam. You can get it on your PS4 Golden, I'm pretty sure. Like you can play these games on modern systems. Persona 1 is still like an old game, and Persona 2 that don't get ever played because they're so different and not at all like what 3 kind of started the trend of these games being. Why aren't we getting a game like that remade? I don't know.
This one's gonna sell like crazy.
Oh, I mean,
it's a
here's the
very
thing.
popular game, and it was stuck on PSP or PS Vita for the longest time until they got it over. So,
well, I was gonna say that's the other concerning thing, because the original Persona 4 launched on PS2, then they released Persona 4 Golden on the Vita, which was like expansion stuff, where it's like, hey, you know, sometimes in the year they'd skip some days or skip some stuff ahead in the calendar. They fill out more of those days, add more characters that you can bond with and get to know, and just tons of more cool things. I'm hoping that this is Persona 4 Golden remake and not a Persona 4 remake, because missing out on some of that content, like there's an entire character, Marie, who's in Golden, who's not in the original, where I think the game would be severely lacking without her.
There's no scenario in which I see them just doing the original.
They kind of did that with 3, where they didn't release the FES content, but then they did it later as DLC. However, with that, it made sense because that kind of was after the entire game ended anyway. This one is actually like spread throughout. So like think Persona 5 and Persona 5 Royal. Royal added a bunch of content throughout the game you could do. That's why I'm a little...
I don't know.
weird.
I've never played Royal.
Yeah. Oh, so. Also, I'm actually thinking Persona 3 Remake didn't include any of the Vita stuff or the PSP stuff that they added, with like the female playable character and some of the other stuff in that. So I don't know. I want to be excited, but at the same time...
So it's Xbox, PS5, and PC, which is good.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be playing this because I never beat this one, but we'll talk about that more as it gets closer. There wasn't a release date yet, so speaking of Xbox, Final Fantasy 16 is out as of this post, June 8th. Final Fantasy 16 is now out on Xbox, like surprisingly, I guess.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 Remake Intergrade, which is the first one and the Yuffie like side story, will launch on both Xbox and Switch 2, which is pretty cool. Not quite Rebirth yet.
No, that's cool.
Good for them.
I was talking with my friend about 16. My friend who's like deep, like probably like you with Final Fantasy, but especially like he loves the older ones, and he hasn't played 16 yet. 16 is the most Final Fantasy story you could think of. Like when you think of typical Final Fantasy story, that is 16 through and through, and that's not a bad thing when I say that.
You can go back through the archives of this podcast begging for a turn-based Final Fantasy game. And then what does Expedition 33 do? Oh, you can't make turn-based anymore. It's dated. Yeah. Really? If Square Enix would get the space balls to
I mean,
just make a turn-based game, but Final Fantasy 16. The reason I brought that up is because when you say your friend doesn't like the combat, a lot of these trial and error Final Fantasy experiences post 10, I totally understand why people wouldn't want to play them.
Yeah.
Because almost every single one is completely different. Try and go back and play 13. As much as I think the story and the setting for 14 is cool, I don't like the combat. I played it. I probably have
it's an MMO.
60 hours into that game, and I hate the combat. 15 was weird, very weird. The other one is 12. I can't go without putting 12 on blast because people say it's one of the best stories in the series, but 12 has that kind of like free roam, turn-based adjacent thing. It's
what my friend...
I hate the 12 combat. Baseballs 2, Rick Moranis is still alive. We'll return as Dark Helmet as Mel Brooks sequel trailer plots a course for 2027.
Yeah, and I think they said Bill Pullman is coming back too. But it's interesting because I know Rick Moranis was, all in the news articles because he kind of retired from acting. I think his wife passed away and he wanted to focus on raising his kids. But now that they're kind of like in college now, he came back for like a commercial, and then I think he came back for a small part in a different movie. But I think it's cool that he's coming back for this, and they got Bill Pullman coming back. Finally happening after what, 50 years?
I think it's
40 years, something like that. Jeez, Brooks is 98 years old. That is crazy.
And nearly 40 years in the making. There you go. Interesting. not super. My wife loves this movie. I am indifferent to it, but
Let's say I like it. I think parts of it are really funny.
yeah,
That's about it.
yeah, it's all right, fine.
I mean, it's definitely left its mark on the the industry because there's so many like memes and images and screenshots going around, and people saying "May the Schwartz be with you." I'd say like people definitely have heard of it, whether you love it or not. But it is interesting that we are getting more all this time, because I know at first was the sequel was supposed to be like Spaceballs 3, the search for Spaceballs 2 or for more treasure or more money or something like that. And
Interesting.
yeah, but that was like I said, they were 40 years in the making because it's been in development hell for a long time. But apparently it's coming out in 27, so 2 years. It's still a ways off.
I finally got to watch this one, Clown in a Cornfield. It takes a very 90s, very 80s slasher and it modernizes it in some good ways and in some bad. So you sit back and you think when you're watching this movie, it's going to be a stalker killer clown. That's kind of what you get. But there's a twist which makes it pretty interesting and kind of funny at points, in that all these kids live in a small town. Classic. And they have like this YouTube channel where they're playing like horror pranks on each other. So when people start dying,
You think it's just a prank?
there's a point where they have like their one guy's head and they're like, oh, look at, he really went all out on this one, and they got all his blood all over him, and then they realize, oh, this is real. And then, it goes crazy. But a couple of the tropes they like to stick to are, $1 million budget made 5.2. That's pretty good. It doesn't feel cheap. It feels like it's a pretty decent, the practical effects are pretty good. But there's nothing really that stands out if I put it up against 90s slashers that I loved. But when you put it up against 2025 slashers, it's a real breath of fresh air, because they stick to some horror tropes. I don't want to say what they are because it'll kind of ruin a couple things, but they stick to a couple things that they've kind of gone away from over the past 20 years that you kind of wonder if it was a trope to begin with. There's something very specific that I'm avoiding if you can't tell, but the acting is pretty good. This kid's a little weird, this Cole Hill, but I was so sure, spoilers, I was so sure he was the killer guy. Scream style.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'll give you. But the acting, I wanted to strangle this girl. One thing I hate, can you say strangle on YouTube?
Strangle in Minecraft.
Anyways, one thing I can't stand in movies is that when you're in a murder situation and you have one character who won't shut up, you're trying to hide from the killer.
Oh my god. I can't believe this is happening.
It's absolutely terrible. And I just want to just grab her. I would have left her behind if it was me, but
and you talking about like the good old days.
They're
of
a little more
slashers.
chivalrous than I would be. Oh,
just still makes me think, how did we not get more Friday the 13th movies after that last one?
Yeah.
Ugh.
But yeah, it's decent. 62 is a little rough as a score to look at, but is it a 6 out of 10 movie? Yeah, it kind of is. It looks a little rough because it's in yellow rather than green, but it's a solid 6 out of 10 slasher. It's not going to blow you away, but if you're in the mood for a slasher, it's a nice one. There are a couple of twists in it, and then there's a really weird twist towards the end, but I would say it's a recommend if you can. Oh, it's on Apple TV. There you go. If you got Apple TV, watch Clown in the Cornfield.
Haven't done my free subscription yet, so maybe.
There you go.
Alrighty. So I watched Ballerina. I'm not gonna get too much into it because I know Dan plans on watching it, and we can talk more about it after that. Maybe do a full-on review for it. But I'll just say I liked the movie. I didn't love it, and I think one of the reasons why is that the movie was like 20 minutes longer than it needed to be. I remember looking at my phone and just being like, geez, how do we still have this much time left? It really needs to wrap stuff up. Which is crazy because John Wick 3 was, or 4 was infamous for having a very long ending sequence. But I think the difference is that with John Wick 4, it kind of justifies it by having each thing feel completely different, not just in like what they're doing, but the type of action scene it is completely different for the 3 different main, I guess 4 different main ones they have there at the end, where I didn't feel the time on that one as much as I did with this one, even though I think that movie's longer.
Right.
There's some really cool action scenes. In fact, there's one part of this movie that felt like they were being cheeky. I won't say exactly what it is here. We'll kind of reference it next time because I don't even want to give it away at all. But it was the first note I wrote down about the movie because I was like, I need to talk about this because that's so cool what they ended up doing with it. There's some really stupid stuff in here as well. But the most important thing you might be asking yourself is, do they do the whole, oh, but is she better than John Wick thing? They don't do that. They make it very clear that no, John Wick is still the guy, and that's all I'll say.
Wow.
I know, I was very surprised because there's a line in the beginning of the movie that's not really a spoiler, which just says, it's like, I can't beat him, and they're not talking about John Wick here. It's a different guy that she's fighting. It's like, well, you gotta cheat. You gotta fight like a girl. And I thought that was gonna be a whole thing of like, oh, they're gonna make her fight like a girl, and that means, oh, women are stronger than men because of that thing. It doesn't lead to anything like that. And like I said, they still make it very clear that,
But that actually, I remember seeing that in the trailer. That actually makes sense because females, especially this lady's very small.
Yes.
So you gotta kind of get your own advantage any way you can. So
not even really a spoiler, but what does she immediately do after she's told that? She kicks the guy in the balls.
Hey,
yeah.
Do what you gotta do, life or death.
But yeah, no, it was
Don't
great.
kick guys in the balls.
Well, yeah.
Just because, but you know.
Yeah, no, I that's why I say, like, I think a 7 out of 10 is probably where I'm sitting at. I literally just watched it, so maybe it will change.
71%.
Yeah. So that's why I'd put the John Wick movies, like, I think the only one I'd put out a 7 out of 10 is 3.
Yep.
Which is my least favorite, but
that's ironically this one takes place during 3.
Yeah.
So
there was some disappointment because there were some characters I would have liked to see more of. It was very nice though. I guess this is Lance Reddick's final on-screen performance. Which it was great to see him again, but don't expect him to do a lot in this movie. It is like 60 seconds you'll see of him. That's it. But
what did he die of?
The actor? I think it was something like that. I can't remember now. It's been almost a year or so. But
I couldn't believe. I think we talked about it when it happened. But that dude's like 60. Was like 60 something. He looks.
Yeah.
I would guess 40.
Oh yeah. No, he's always fantastic. I mean, like I'll always think of him as like the voice of Zavala because it was just like so iconic, and I was with the Titans, so I heard him so much. But he was also in Fringe. That's why I mean. I don't know. I'd recommend seeing this movie. We'll talk more about it later, but I did have fun with it. It is probably the weaker, I'd say it's just under Parabellum 3. But I mean, when the series has, it hits as often as it does, that doesn't make this a bad thing.
The way that she fights in this movie, is it believable for her stature and her skill set?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I like about this movie is I was thinking it's going to be like the thing I got sick of. Like the reason why I don't like 3 as much is because there's way too much just shooting guns. There's not a lot of like new stuff they're doing outside the very beginning of the movie with in the knife store. I really like that scene, and it's just a lot of shooting guns. This one barely shoots guns. I mean, I wouldn't say barely. Maybe it's like 50% of the time. But I'll just say that's one of my criticisms is for a movie called Ballerina. I was expecting more of that to be a thing in the way that she fights,
Right.
but she seems like more of just like a regular martial artist.
Yeah, that would have been interesting.
But it also ties into a little bit of the theming they have for the movie, which I won't get into. Like the way that she is not a ballerina. I don't really. It's not really like a big thing at all, but it's, you know, that just like it came across like I was in the movie where I was like, you know, I don't see her like spinning or doing dance moves between things or stuff. So why is it called ballerina? I don't know. Just
yeah, at least maybe if the skills that it took, like I don't know if like spinning or, you know, like ballet is what I would have wanted, but maybe the skill set that it takes to be a ballerina, flexibility, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you see some of that, but it's like your typical martial arts thing where like they're very flexible and
that's
type
fine,
stuff.
I guess.
Yeah, yeah.
They're using the old poster.
Yeah, I know.
This one from the world of John Wick. Glad they dropped that in the name of the movie. So
I like the villain in this one, and actually the villain group. I really like what they did with that to the point where it kind of inspired me a little bit for like, hey, maybe I might take this and put it into my D&D stuff a little bit. That's how interesting it was.
all right. Vague on this one, but Founded on Evil Eye 2025 is not a movie. It's not a movie in the vein of Demon Slayer where they took an arc, compressed it into a full movie, and then still released the arc later on, Dragon Ball Super style.
Yeah.
It's not a movie like My Hero Academia where it's a separate side story. It's just simply 3 episodes, even with the commercial breaks, where it fades to black, still stuffed in there.
Yeah.
So it's still every single time faded to black, and the ending was very abrupt. And my wife came with me. She had no idea what the hell this even was. So I had her watch. Imagine this. I had her watch the first episode on the way to the movie tavern. And then we watched this. But what they do in the beginning, you do not need to have seen the first season in order to watch this because they do a full recap. However, me knowing this series like I do, it was information overload in that beginning because they literally sit there and say, okay, here's what you missed.
Yeah, they recap in 12 episodes
in 5 minutes. And I was kind of starting to be like, this is a lot. Even though I know what's going on, listening to the recap was kind of a lot because this series is kind of a lot.
It's insane.
That being said, the art, of course, is fantastic. They add in a lot of comedy. The first episode, if you will, is strange in the sense of the material of the episode. Trying to get somebody, like if I was sitting next to you watching this, I wouldn't have had to try and like lean over and explain anything, but when there's this whole situation going on with Momo,
it's like when you're young and your parent walks in and you have to explain how this isn't what the entire show is about.
If I was 12 and my parents walked in on me watching the first episode of this movie,
yeah,
I would have had some explaining to do because it's very weird.
Yeah,
and
I mean, that
the
part
look
in the
on my
manga
wife's
as well
face
is weird.
It's hard to describe to somebody who wasn't sitting there with me, but I'll just leave it there.
Yeah, because I know because it's where the end of the last season leaves off, is that things kind of get weird there. You're talking about like the bath, right?
Oh yeah, you do the bath. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's just it's hard to. This is not a first anime type of anime. This is not a first 15 anime type of anime.
It's a hey, you watch the entire first season, so you're kind of used to the insanity and weirdness that this show does.
Yeah.
So it's not as off-putting, but like if this is the first thing you're really jumping right into, it's like, what are you making me watch?
Yeah. Now I've had her watch My Hero and Attack on Titan, and Attack on Titan's quite a big leap.
Oof.
My Hero is definitely a starter anime. So I don't know. I really liked it. Yeah. But I did not like the place where it stops.
They just been doing that nowadays.
It just jacked me up because I was expecting Demon Slayer, Mugen Train, where it puts everything in a nice little bow. it's still part of the series.
Yeah,
but it's a movie in itself.
I thought I had said this on our podcast, but it might have been to my other friend that I was talking with. But it's one of the things that they've been doing, where it's just the first 3 episodes of the show.
Yeah.
They did it with Dragon Ball Daima. They've actually done it with the last 2 seasons of Demon Slayer, I'm pretty sure, with like the Swords Village arc, and then the most recent, the Hashira training arc, where they did. Those ones have been weird though, because they take the last episode of the previous season as the first episode they show, and then they show the first 2 episodes of the new season. Then
right.
That's why, like Demon Slayer, I didn't watch any of those in theaters, because I was like, well, I already saw 1 or 2 of these episodes. Why do I need to go in theaters? I know they do it because it's a way to get more money for this, so that way it's just like, hey, we just take the 3 episodes we worked on, put it in theaters, people go and see it, and we get some money back from it that way.
The way this felt is it should have been a 4th episode.
Oh yeah,
because
it's almost done with the arc.
It just cuts. There's something that happens at the end of this, and you're like, okay, let's see where this goes, and then it's like, let's talk to the directors. Like, okay,
yeah,
they do that at the end. By the way, if you go and see this, they sit with the Japanese and the English. He's not American. He's like maybe French or Russian or something, but the English speaking director, this guy, Abel
Gongora. He's right there in his pictures.
So let's see where he's from. Oh, Spain. It was close. What did I say?
I
Russian or
you said Russia.
Russian or something else.
So not really close.
It's close enough. Closer than it is here. Europe, right? All right.
Well,
I recommend
Spain
this,
is Europe. Russia's not.
But I highly, highly recommend you go and watch the series first, because they do recap it, so you don't need to, but it's a lot of information to take in. The art, I mean, this purple that you see in here, there's a lot of purple, and it's really nice.
That's always been the good thing with like this show, and one of the reasons why I really like JoJo is they know how to use color very effectively to make it very visually appealing.
Yeah, and it's an easy to follow premise as well. But with all the information you're just taking in, it's a lot. And again, I know this series very well. We talk about it all the time. We're going to do like a running tally of if we talk about Expedition 33 or Dandadan more. We'll have like a...
Dandadan has a slight advantage because it's been out longer, but you know, they get mentioned every single episode. So probably...
Highly recommend, but if you're going to go see it, please watch the first season. Even if you're not going to see it, please watch the first. Now, the way this seems is that they're not even going to mess around with, like, when you look at some of the, like, Dragon Ball Super, the Frieza arc, they did that in the theater under the Golden Frieza movie. It was Resurrection F. And then in Dragon Ball Super, they also did that as an arc, and the art was way worse. Yeah. But this just feels like it's the 3 episodes that you're going to get on TV.
So the Dragon Ball movies are an interesting exception because those were made just to be movies. Then after the Golden Frieza one, or, you know, Resurrection F, they were like, hey, we should do a new show. And then in order to give themselves time to write new material, they just decided to take the movies and extend them out into episodes. That's a whole different story, but yeah, this is literally just the 3 episodes though. That's not a movie. It's because even the same thing with Mugen Train, where it was a movie, and then what did they do when they made that season of TV? They like made a beginning new episode, and then they did cut it up, but they added a little bit more here and there to make it flow as a TV show better. Because we talk about TV shows and movies, and we're just very well aware of how the pacing and the way that you approach making each one of them is completely different. Pacing that works for a TV show doesn't always work with a movie. And I think that's probably why this felt like a weird theater experience, because it felt like you were binging a TV show and then you're being told, all right, you watched your first 3 episodes, now you have to wait a while to watch the next few. And it's like, but I was just watching that. That's what it felt like with when I watched Daima. Because I watched the first 3 episodes in theaters, and then it took 6 months for it to come out in English. And I was like,
I was just looking.
So dumb.
Set July 4th, so it's not that long. But
yeah, thankfully. Life of Chuck is a really hard movie to talk about, because even talking about the movie kind of spoils the experience. And I went into this movie knowing literally nothing about it. And I think that made my viewing experience even better. All I'm going to say right now, because I do plan on doing like a full review of it later, so I'll say keep an eye out for that. But just a couple things I want to talk about. First, you might think, oh, this is a Tom Hiddleston movie. It's not. I'd say all the cast gets equal screen time, and if anything, Tom Hiddleston probably has the smallest amount of screen time, even though it's a very important part of the movie that he's in. I think the way that this movie was structured really made it work, and I cannot recommend this enough.
What is the movie? I don't even know what it is.
That's why I don't want to say, because that's part of the fun is figuring out what this movie is about as you watch it. Because I'll just say very slightly my viewing experience was confusion and kind of like, why am I hearing good stuff about this movie and I'm not getting it, to as the movie progressed, I was like, oh, I get it now. But I feel like even saying what the movie's about will kind of spoil that experience, because I think they want you to have these, let's say, negative feelings in the beginning because it pays off by the end.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like, I mean, I really don't want to talk about it. I mean, it's about the life of Chuck. I mean, I can say that, but it's not, and this will say, because you see, directed by Mike Flanagan. It's not a horror movie. It's not an action movie. It's nothing like that. And I can even say, for people, if they were to watch this and not enjoy it.
Stephen King?
Yeah, it's based off a Stephen King short story.
So it's Stephen King and Mike Flanagan. It's not horror.
Yes.
Okay.
But I do think this is possibly my favorite movie of the year because of the way that it made me feel. And it is, I think, one of the best feeling movies. Like I wrote some notes, and the first note I wrote down was I had a smile on my face for many parts of this movie. And it's a movie that's about the life of Chuck. Let's just say that. And it's not like, oh, this weird action thing that happens or this other. It's about that thing, and it will really open your eyes on the way that you view the world, I will say about it. But I really liked it. All the performances were great. Even though he's an old curmudgeon in real life now, Mark Hamill, he's in this movie. I didn't recognize him at first. But he actually has a pretty good performance in this. But yeah, everybody in this movie does a fantastic job, and I can't recommend this enough. Like I said, I'll do a full-on review, or if Dan's able to see it in the next week, maybe we'll talk about it on next week's episode a little bit more in depth. But it's a movie where I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about it, but I do think the experience is better if you go into this movie knowing literally nothing about it. And that's, you kind of get it from the little description they give you there. It doesn't really tell you what the movie's about, but it works towards the movie.
Gotcha. All right. Bark 2023, I guess, question mark. So, man wakes up tied to a tree, hands tied behind his back. He's in the middle of the forest. Why is he there? Nobody knows. He starts to hallucinate after days of... Now, this takes place in one location. This must be a very, very cheap movie to make. Whatever the camera equipment costs, you don't even need a wardrobe because the guy's just in his own t-shirt and pants. But we just start off and we're behind this guy's back. You see that the back of his head's bleeding. He's tied to a tree. And then we just go. The entire movie, the majority of the movie, the man's tied to a tree. We don't know why. We go through these bits and bobs of hallucinations. Is it related to why he's tied to the tree?
Maybe.
Some yes, some no. But I'm gonna spoil this movie because I can't talk about the feelings that it gives you without spoiling the movie. So if you care about Bark, then come back in 2 minutes or whatever. Okay, so the guy is tied to a tree. So midway through the movie, someone shows up and we think it's another hallucination, but no, it's some dude camping outside like 10 feet away from where he's tied to a tree. And obviously, this is the guy who tied him to the tree and wants to watch him slowly waste away. Guy won't give him any answers. The guy's making him think about why it's like punishing a kid in a corner. Why are you in timeout? Apparently, the main character, his wife was screwing around on him. So he took her dog, tied the dog to a tree, and left it in the woods. This guy, this random dude, happened upon the dog's corpse. And since the dog had a collar, was able to piece everything together and did it to this guy. So the whole time you're feeling horrible for this dude for 93% of the movie. And then when you find out the bastard tied a dog to a tree, the dog didn't cheat on him.
Yeah.
Just to get back at his wife, which I can understand the need for revenge in a situation like that, but just take her dog.
Yeah, I was gonna
keep
say.
the dog.
you
She loves
don't
the
feel
dog
bad.
so much. Yeah, but she loves the dog so much that, if you just like, oh, you left the dog here, it's mine now, and call her a couple curse words and move on with your life. But you go from the entire movie rooting for this guy to immediately like, nah, I'm cool if he dies. And he does. He ends up realizing what he's done after the rage of finding out his wife was screwing around on him wears off, and he's been in this tied to this tree for, I don't know, 5 days at this point. We're able to just be cool with it. So it's a very odd journey of tension for this dude to survive. Why the hell is this weirdo tying you to a tree? To, yeah, I guess what goes around comes around, you rat bastard. So it's strange. It's a strange roller coaster, but a satisfying one. So it's solidly acted. There's only two. Michael West and AJ Buckley are basically the only humans in this movie. There's a couple passerbys who, like, there's some tension to see if Michael Weston's character can flag him down, that kind of thing. So it's not just sitting next to a tree talking, but most of it's sitting next to a tree talking. So it's a solid movie. The roller coaster of emotions are a well respected one because they do the right thing. While I don't enjoy particularly animal cruelty in movies, at least the son of a bitch that was cruel to the animals got his comeuppance. So I do appreciate that. John Wick style. I still can't watch that opening scene of John Wick. I fast forward it.
It's rough.
Little baby dog.
It's how they really make you, though, instantly sympathize with him.
Right.
It's like only evil people would do this.
And that's how they do it here. Only a sick bastard would because you can be as mad as you want. I can get mad, but I would never be like, oh, this animal, time to die. No, I wouldn't. I don't care how mad I was. I would have more of an instinct to go after, even though I wouldn't do that either, but I would have more of an instinct to go after the gal than I would to kill this dog. It's so weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they take you on a journey. It's well done. The acting is nice. A 3.1 out of 5 is very fair. Even though I ruined what it is, I don't know if it'd still be good or not, but it's a recommend. I swore I would never watch this show. A little bit of a backstory.
Mm-hmm.
The night before my U.S. history, what's the Regents exam we had to take in 11th grade? Whatever that social
world
studies
is it
one.
world history?
Maybe.
Something like that.
But we had to take an exam in 11th grade, and I apparently fell asleep. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was watching the NBA on TNT, and I fell asleep with it on the night before. I woke up to the most blood-curdling screaming in the middle of the night at probably 2-3 a.m. It was the mother flipping X-Files on. So I swore I would never watch. I almost failed that test. I got a 65 on it. And I passed everything. I got a 99 on chemistry if we're flexing. But
Nice.
I swore after that moment I'd never watch this show. But tried it for the first time yesterday. Watched the first episode. Oh boy. I love David Duchovny. I'm not very familiar with Gillian Anderson as Scully, but the show's pretty good. It's weird because I get that it's from 1993, but the acting is rough. Especially the first girl that they get to like interview as a duo. Her acting it's a little bit hard to watch. I'm gonna power through a few more episodes, see how I like it, but it's an interesting show. It's based on. Now at this point, do we know for sure if it's the paranormal? Of course we do. It's called the X-Files.
Mm-hmm.
But Scully's whole gimmick is that she's supposed to debunk the cases. Mulder thinks they're paranormal or alien related, and Scully's job, Jesus. Scully sounds like the guy and Mulder sounds like the girl, but it's the reverse. Scully's job is supposed to a skeptic assigned to make scientific analyses of Mulder's discoveries that debunk Mulder's work. There. TMDB said it way better than I did, but it's interesting. It's good so far, but again, 1993. If anyone's gonna try and get started on this for the first time, you got to have some patience because the acting, even some of David Duchovny's lines, it's like it gets you right in that spot that make your shoulders go up and your head go back. It's really cringy at points, but it's good. I'm gonna stick it out. It's better than Hotel Hell or whatever it's called, Hell Motel, whatever. But it's interesting. It's very, very interesting show, and I'm not saying anything. I mean, it went on for 218 episodes, so I'm not saying anything people don't already know. But the pilot episode is 2 hours.
Oh wow!
So I don't know how long each normal episode is, but the pilot's frickin' 2 hours long. Owen Wilson. Remember I talked about Bad Monkey last week, and Vince Vaughn's character from Wedding Crashers is the guy in Bad Monkey. Owen Wilson's character plus a golf past is his character from Wedding Crashers in Stick. He's down on his luck, former Tiger Woods, PGA legend guy who lost everything. He works at a golf shop, and now he's trying to mentor this kid who's like the next. He's this kind of broke nobody kid who keeps sneaking into the golf range to hit balls for free and not tell anyone. So the guy keeps chasing him off. That's kind of where he and Stick, they call. It really bothers me. His name is Price, spelled like that. I'm like, oh, Bryce. That's a normal name. Anyways, it's done well. The characters are pretty good. Mark Maron's like kind of his sidekick who helps him scam people. Judy Greer's annoying, but she's meant to be because she's the ex-wife who's like trying to sell everything because he's lost his money. She's divorcing him. Well, she has divorced him. Now she wants to sell the house. He's kind of like, depressed and all that stuff. So just the first episode is all I watched, and it has promise. Is it anything? Again, I talked about this with both Apple TV Plus series last week. Is it anything that you should go out of your way to buy Apple TV for? No. But if you have Apple TV, should you watch it? Yes. This is a very common theme that I'm finding with these series.
Yeah.
Because they're all solid, but they're not $8.99 a month solid. If you got Apple TV Plus, watch Stick. It's decent. If you like Owen Wilson, decent. If you don't like Owen Wilson, obviously you don't watch this because he is very Owen Wilson in this one. He's not trying to play a character. He's just, I'm Owen Wilson as a golf guy. So
I'm kind of funny in the way that I
yeah,
talk about things.
He's very Owen Wilson-y, this one. And a
Whoa.
little bit charming, a little bit corny.
He's a rascal, a charming rascal.
Yeah. So the three boys from Always Sunny, 3 out of the 4 boys, can't forget about Danny DeVito, are on Hot Ones, and they're doing. So basically, the premise of this version of Hot Ones, they all sit at a table, they ask each other questions. You can either answer the question or eat a spicy death wing or whatever they call it. And they have some interesting topics and things from the behind the scenes of Always Sunny. Always Sunny is my favorite comedy series of all time. I've seen every single episode multiple times. So when
even the bad ones.
Yeah, when they're talking about this stuff, except that one with the first season of the one where Dennis is gone.
Oh, with Mindy.
I've only seen that one once.
The annoying lady from Velma.
The annoying lady is what I know her as. Yes, I don't know her name at all. They talk about times where the show could have ended. If there was ever a time where they thought, okay, maybe this is it, because season 17 is coming out next month. There's a lot in here that's interesting. Dennis's hair is throwing me off so hard because in the series he's got like the full head magnificent coif going, but here he's probably prepping for another movie. It's fun. It's short, actually. I don't think it's anyways, it's worth a watch. First We Feast is the channel. With this, it's interesting, especially if you have even like a moderate interest in the show. Not Hot Ones, but if you have a moderate interest in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, it's worth a watch. Only 15. All right, so we'll catch you guys later. Peace.